How much higher can he go as a quarterback in this league?
Full disclosure, he was my number 2 quarterback coming out in that draft class. I had him right behind Burrow. So I was high on him as a prospect because of the innate ability he has to not only extend plays, but play through pressure. And if you can play through pressure, I want you as my quarterback. I don't care how tall you are, how far you can throw, how fast you can run. Can you handle pressure situations? And that's the most underrated element of quarterback play. So for me, I think his ceiling is still yet to be determined. I feel like he can be a Dak Prescott for Philadelphia, which is good. Dak Prescott has been fantastic for the Dallas Cowboys. When you look at Jalen Hurts and what he does really well,
you got your Mac guys, John McMullen and Jody McDonald on Birds 365. We add a third voice to the mix, a good one at that, from Football Gameplan and CBS HQ NFL analyst Emory Hunt joins us here on Birds 365. Emory, how's your summer going?
Going great, man. It's nonstop football, and congratulations to the Philadelphia Stars for getting to the USFL championship game. We've been covering USFL all spring.
Yeah, Emory, you know you can't have a USFL championship game without the Philadelphia Stars or the Baltimore Stars. 4 for 4, baby. The Stars, it took them, what I say, Jody, 37 years to get number 4. But anytime there's a USFL championship game, the Stars have to be involved. We were talking about it a little bit, and obviously you've been doing a lot of work with that league. Jody and I go, obviously I'm older, but I go back to the old World League, and I start thinking about quarterbacks, and I start thinking, that Kurt Warner partially developed there, Brad Johnson, Jake Delhomme, particularly at the quarterback position. How much do you think there is value in live reps, even in sort of developmental leagues, minor leagues, whatever you want to call them? Quarterbacks have to play, don't you think? And I see guys like that back in the day, and that's been missing, I think, that developmental aspect, at least a little bit in the NFL.
Yeah, you can't fake live in practice. I don't care how much coaches want to simulate it or whatnot. Quarterbacks know they're not going to get hit. And you don't really know if a quarterback's tough or not until they actually get into a game where they can be hit. And so playing live games helps that aspect to help you figure that out. And it's good to get these guys live reps because quarterback is one of the only positions where you can only play one at a time. And so playing in an alternate league and playing in a secondary league is great for these quarterbacks because now you get to see pro defenses, pro speeds, and pro talent, just like you would, we don't have any questions about a guy coming out of a Power 5 and can he play at the pro level. But to your point about Kurt Warner coming out of the then 1AA at Northern Iowa, we don't know if he can play against pro talent and higher, speed. So that's why playing against pro talent in these leagues, whether it's the USFL or XFL or to your point, the World League, that's beneficial because you need these guys to go up against a step up in talent. And these leagues provide that for these guys to get those live reps so you can then get a better grasp of what this guy can be and what his potential ultimately is.
All right, Emory, give me a read on USFL 2022. We've had a lot of other spring leagues, developmental league, competition, whatever you want to call them. But what level is this football being played at that the NFL has to try and evaluate? Looking at a guy in this league, yes, it's professional. Yes, they're being paid. No, it's not the NFL. How close? What is the drop-off? How would you label the quality of football being played in the USFL this year and then being able to try and come up with a determination whether a player from this league can actually play in the NFL?
It's really good talent. I would say it's almost on par with, or it's right on par with the third preseason game. These guys are right there on the cusp. They're playing competitive games. All of these games outside of one, Michigan lost or Michigan beat Pittsburgh 24-0. But all of these games have been one possession games or maybe 2 possession games. But with the way the rules are set up, you're not really out of the game. So they've been close. They've been competitive. You'll see a handful of guys get opportunities. But for the most part, there is a lane for guys to be professional football players just outside the NFL level. I feel like we tend to get caught up in wanting to compare every spring league to a league that's been around since 1920. That's not going to happen. They're going to always get the best of the best. So we got to look at, okay, these guys can play football, obviously, play it well, and there needs to be a lane for this. That's why I'm glad for the XFL, because there's enough room for 2 of these professional leagues to thrive. And so I feel like the level we've seen so far this spring from the USFL has been excellent. Go back to 2020 with the XFL, that has been excellent. So that tells you there's enough of next tier pro talent that's available here in the States.
USFL championship game coming up next week in Canton, Emory. So once that's done, and the Stars are USFL champions, even though they're going to be big underdogs, I assume, against, I think Birmingham was 10-1. Is that right?
Yeah.
But
then again, New Jersey was 9-1.
Yeah, that's true. How much churn do you think there's going to be at the back end of NFL rosters? How many USFL players do you think are going to be sort of going in, getting an opportunity, earning an opportunity from playing in the USFL, essentially?
Probably not as many as folks may think, because the financials don't make sense for an NFL team to take a USFL guy that has had some opportunity in the NFL over a guy that's undrafted rookie guy. They could pay cheaper. It's about dollars and cents. So I feel like the NFL will always go cheaper, more so than paying someone that's 26, 27 years old a bigger salary. They want, especially if you're talking about the bottom of the roster, that's where I think, these guys, if you're a younger player, let's say if you're a part of the 2022 draft class and you did a great job of, bypassing NFL process altogether, jumping right into the USFL, you have a better chance because now you put together 10 games of new tape against professional talent, so the NFL can reevaluate you, and then you have a better shot of going to the NFL because you're still young and cheap, as opposed to the 27-year-old guy that has been solid in the USFL. It's going to cost a little bit more to get him up. He has to be over the top outstanding to get that opportunity.
All right, and let's jump into the NFL. And I got to ask you this question because John and I discussed it in our first segment. I'm a Matt Corral guy. Liked him a lot coming into the draft. Thought that he dropped in the draft and was surprised he wasn't picked earlier than he was. Carolina ends up getting him. They've got a, let's say, up in the air quarterback situation this year. Sam Darnold. Will they trade for Baker Mayfield? I think Matt Corral can go in there and maybe win that job if he's given a fair shot at it. You had to evaluate him for the upcoming draft, watched his collegiate career. How do you like the player as far as his future goes? Can he be a guy who, as a rookie, can come in and not embarrass himself and maybe win some games for Carolina?
It's going to be interesting to watch because I view Matt Corral like how I view Taylor Heineke for Washington. They're about the same guy. I think they're solid QB2s.
But you hurt Jody, Emory. You hurt Jody. Look,
you got to be honest, man.
When he makes a Pro Bowl, we're going to get you back on, and you're going to have to apologize, not to me, but Matt himself.
And here he's going to a situation where there is an opportunity for him to play and start, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be the guy. But it's not a hard road to climb because you have Sam Darnold who can't, stop turning the ball over. And Matt Corral has suffered a lot of the same things that Sam Darnold has suffered, injuries. Just when you start to see this guy play well, talking about Darnold, he gets injured and then he has to hit reset. So you can't really depend on him to be out there for a full 17-game season. Corral plays a bit reckless for my taste, kind of like Taylor Heineke. You love the grit, you love the athleticism, but you got to know when to slide. You can't be out there, taking on hits like you're Barry Word. You have to get out of bounds, don't take the hit, and live to play to the down. PJ Walker is another one that gives you a little bit of the same things that Matt Corral does. So they have a bunch of guys that are kind of similar. So that's why preseason, and to your point, if it's going to be a real competition, yes, Matt Corral does have an opportunity to win that job, but we'll have to see how it all plays out during the preseason. But for me, he's a solid QB2. I don't know if he has that QB1 level type of consistency.
PJ Walker, former Temple star who played in the XFL, by the way, I believe, Emory. And I love the Barry Word reference, by the way. Love the Barry Word reference. Former Kansas City back, big back as well. But I want to talk about a big player here in Philadelphia, a projected big player, both literally and figuratively for the Eagles, and that's Jordan Davis. And I want to talk about it because you know, czar of the playbook, footballgameplan.com, Emory Hunt. What does Jordan Davis do for a defense? What does he bring to a Jonathan Gannon defense that the Eagles did not have previously?
He creates one-on-one opportunities for a lot of people on the outside. And when you're 6'6", 350, but have the athleticism that he has, you're going to command a double team. And I feel like his situation to me is sort of similar to the Giants' Dexter Lawrence. Just because he wasn't asked to do something doesn't mean he can't do something. When you watch Lawrence at Clemson and you watch Jordan Davis at Georgia, you see quickness off the ball. You see a potential for him to be a one-gap penetrator and get upfield and collapse the pocket in that way. But also you see someone that can demand a double team, that can be a potent run stuffer, but also create those one-on-one opportunities to free up guys that have a little bit more, cachet to get to the quarterback. So I feel like he's going to be an added benefit for this defense. Now, granted, it may not show up in the stat sheet. He may not have, Aaron Donald like sacks, but who does? But his productivity will show up in how everyone else around him plays. I think he's going to be a fantastic player and great fit for Philadelphia.
All right, Emory, I'm going to ask you about a first-year Philadelphia Eagles as well on the other side of the ball, and that's A.J. Brown, the skilled wide receiver and now highly paid wideout who will be joining the Eagles this year. John and I had some fun when he first signed on with the Eagles, when they first acquired him, trying to figure out where he ranks in the wide receivers in the National Football League. And it all comes down to how you define it. Are you talking just about what they've done so far? Are you projecting what they're going to do in the future? We think he's right at that cutting edge of the top 10. Some people have him 8 or 9. Some people have him 11 or 12. How good can A.J. Brown be here in Philadelphia this first season playing, catching the football from Jalen Hurts?
He could be really good. I think he's a top 10 receiver. You talk about someone that can win on the outside, that can win on the inside, that's great after the catch, that fights for the football, that really doesn't leave his quarterback hung out to dry out there on the field. So I love that fit for him in Philly. He has a great rapport already with Jalen Hurts. And now you give the Eagles 2 number 1 wide receivers. And so if you're a defense, who you're going to shade coverage to, because you also have to realize they have a great tight end too. And they have someone that can really stretch the middle of the field. That guy, that rotational slot guy, can be whoever they want it to be. I think it should be Greg Ward. I think Greg Ward was underrated last year for Philadelphia. So Philly really has a lot of great assets for them in the passing game, along with the quarterback in Jalen Hurts that looks to keep his eyes downfield and find those opportunities down the field with these receivers. So I feel like with all that I just said, A.J. Brown shouldn't be a drop-off from what we saw from him in Tennessee here in Philly.
I want to talk to you about the vehicle that's getting A.J. Brown the football. As you mentioned, Jalen Hurts, he and A.J. are very close personally. It's interesting, Emory, when we started this conversation, we were talking about live reps. You can't fake live, you need live reps. And I remember going back to camp last year every day. At times Jalen Hurts didn't look that good, and at times he looked frustrated because what did they try to do at practice? Protect the quarterback. You got the red jersey on, you got the quick whistle. What does Jalen Hurts do well? Extend plays, keep things going. And a couple times he showed visible frustration when they blew the play dead because he knew he could do something. Sure enough, at the time, I kind of rolled my eyes. I said, well, the Eagles are playing this up. And then it turned out to be true. He could extend plays in actual games, and we saw that development. We saw him turn into a Pro Bowl alternate quarterback. And he's not a practice quarterback because some of the things he does so well, they don't let him do in practice. I want your take, though, on Jalen Hurts as a long-term prospect in this league. What is the ceiling? I think we've already seen the floor. How much higher can he go as a quarterback in this league?
Full disclosure, he was my number 2 quarterback coming out in that draft class. I had him right behind Burrow. So I was high on him as a prospect because of the innate ability he has to not only extend plays, but play through pressure. And if you can play through pressure, I want you as my quarterback. I don't care how tall you are, how far you could throw, how fast you could run. Can you handle pressure situations? And that's the most underrated element of quarterback play. So for me, I think his ceiling is still yet to be determined. I feel like he can be a Dak Prescott for Philadelphia, which is good. Dak Prescott has been fantastic for the Dallas Cowboys. When you look at Jalen Hurts and what he does really well, we hadn't seen Jalen Hurts, to be honest, under the same OC in back-to-back years since high school. And so when you look at someone that has gotten better, has the humble nature to work on where he needs to work on. We saw this at Alabama. He didn't transfer, stayed, got better when the little reps he was getting after games were easily decided. They needed him to go back in the game, in a championship game, and he led them down the field and did great things. So all of that makeup yields me to believe that this guy is going to be exactly what you want him to be in a franchise quarterback. He was the reason why the Eagles moved on from Carson Wentz. He's the reason why they decide, hey, we got something special here. We're going to build around him and enhance his abilities to make plays. So I do feel like he's someone that the Eagles can count on. He's stable. He doesn't get flustered. He doesn't mind competition, which is great. Some quarterbacks don't want you to bring in, even whisper about bringing somebody else in. Jalen Hurts doesn't care. And when you have that type of mindset where you are secure in your own abilities, that's the guy that you want. And when you have that at that position, the most important position, you have something special.
Oh, you don't need to explain to us about a quarterback who can't handle someone looking over his shoulder, Carson Wentz. Here in Philadelphia, we know how that song plays. And we're with you that won't bother Jalen Hurts. But here's an issue that I think could crop up for the Eagles. And if you watch the team last year, you would think coming into this season, well, that won't be an issue. But now it could be. You add A.J. Brown. You've got Devonta Smith, who absolutely was their best wide receiver, and I think has got wide receiver one talents and skills. You got Dallas Goedert, who doesn't have to share time with Zach Ertz from the start of the season on. That's three pretty good targets. Three pretty good guys who can make plays down the field. We believe the Eagles are going to throw the ball more than they did last year when they were the leading rushing team in the National Football League. Is there any chance that we get some diva action from Eagle targets? That there is hey, I need the ball a little bit more. Coming up a little short on my targets here. Shane Steichen, Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts. The wide receiver, which is now a talented group, the receiver group, I should say, not just wide, because I got to include Goddard in that. Are there going to be enough footballs to go around for the Eagle receivers this year?
Absolutely, because you look at the two guys that they're going to be throwing the ball to. Smith, he played with at Alabama. Brown is his best friend. So I feel like that right there kills the diva nature. They kind of have a mutual respect for one another. The question mark I have about Philly, even though they were the number one rushing team or one of the top 5 rushing teams in the NFL, the running back position. Can Miles Sanders be out there for a full 17-game season? Can he hold on to the football? If he can be what you should be when you're paired up with a mobile quarterback, the Eagles should have the most dynamic offense in football because you have the ability that's going to be created with Jalen Hurts' ability. You're going to be able to expand the field now because you have 2 legit number ones and a tight end that can get down the seam. And now you have the ability to really run the football anywhere you want to on the interior, but you need guys to really take the reins of that position. There are some points in the season where you thought Gainwell may have been a better runner pound for pound than Sanders. But Sanders has that ability that you just can't coach. He has a knack for slicing through a hole, but can he do it for 17 games? If he's out there, he should be easily a 12 to 1,300-yard rusher, averaging 5.5 yards a carry.
Yeah, 5.5. I mean, that Eagles offensive line, it looked like they could put Jordan Howard, Boston Scott as well, could run behind that offensive line. So it will be interesting. I think the key with Miles Sanders, as you said, Emory, is he's got to stay healthy. He's got to be on the field. He's got to be there consistently. I do want to expand things to the entire NFC East and the draft because it was an interesting – the Giants are where they are in sort of their rebuild, new GM, new head coach. They're probably going to move on. from Daniel Jones after this year. They seem committed to this rebuild, but they got some significant talent. That's what happens when you draft it. You have 2 picks in the top 10. So they're able to bring in Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal. How much does it make them better just from a talent perspective? Then you had some curiosity. Washington had a lot of chances and sort of traded down. They go with Jahan Dotson, and then the Cowboys with Tyler Smith. What'd you think about the NFC drafts as a whole, the NFC East drafts as a whole?
I think they got better as a whole. Collectively, the division is a lot better from a talent perspective. I still feel like it is a 2-team race, Dallas and Philly, for the top spot, and both teams will get into the playoffs, in my opinion. The Giants and Washington are interesting because even last year, I said this preseason, the Giants are not bad. On paper, they are a 7 to 8 win team. It all depends on if number 8 can get them to 9 or 10 wins. And that's the biggest question. Once again, we know now Saquon Barkley is 2 years removed from the knee injury. So in his mind, he's not thinking about the knee injury anymore. They've beefed up the offensive line, which should be really good. Their defensive front 7 should be excellent. They're going to be solid on the back end. They got playmakers. They have great special teams. Can number 8 get them to 8, 9, 10 wins? Because that's the difference. For Washington, I like the collective talent they have. We know their defensive line is tremendous. We've seen them improve up front offensively. They have good weapons out on a perimeter at receiver, McLaurin, Dotson. They still have the kid from Carolina that they brought in last year, the versatile kid. They have
Curtis Samuel,
Curtis Samuel. So it's about whether or not Carson Wentz can get out of his own way, get out of his own head, and forget about what happened last year in Indy and kind of move on from that and get this team into the playoffs. Because again, on paper, just like the Giants, they are a 7, 8, 9 win team, but it depends on the quarterback play. Can they push them into that double digit? Because if we look at the NFC, you're probably going to need double digits to get into the playoffs. And if they can do that, that makes things very interesting in the NFC East.
Yeah. Eagles, and the Giants and Commanders have no shot to win double digits. Neither one of them is happening. Improvement to the draft or whatever. I'm sorry. Neither one of those teams are getting there. I'll stick with it's a 2-team race, Cowboys and Eagles. All right, jumping back into the Eagles and their defense and the former Bulldog. John asked you about their first-round draft pick on the defensive line. I want to ask you about their third-round draft pick at linebacker. I'm a big Nakobe Dean fan. I couldn't believe that he fell to the third round in the draft. I know he had a pec issue and there's some injury questions. There's questions about his size. I don't get it. The guy's just a stone cold playmaker. Georgia was the best college defense I've seen in years. And to me, he was the main man on that defense. And a whole bunch of his teammates were selected before him, which I didn't quite understand. Give us your Nakobe Dean film breakdown and how you think he translates to the National Football League.
You know, there's a unique way to look at Nakobe Dean, and I think landing in Philly is perfect for him. And I'll tell you why. When you go back to watch him at Georgia, you constantly notice how athletic Quay Walker was and Channing Tindall was. Nakobe Dean has okay athleticism. And, you know, it's not a knock, it's just a reality. But the reason why you saw him make a lot of plays, he has very good instincts to supersede that lack of top-tier athleticism. But when you think about Georgia up front, we talked about Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt. You also talk about the guy, Carter, that's going to be there next year. They had the number 1 overall pick up front as well in Trayvon Walker. So those guys kept him clean, which allowed him to go and have free reign to the football. Let's look at what Philly has up front. Jordan Davis, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave. They essentially have the same thing that should allow a guy like that to have free reign to the football. So landing here is the perfect situation for a guy like that. And so with all of that being said, he should start as inside linebacker. He should have impactful plays because he has fantastic instincts, and he instantly makes his defense better at the second level, which we know was a huge problem for Philadelphia last season. There were times where you thought, are they even playing with linebackers? They're out there with 9 defenders because there was no one at the second level making plays. So Nakobe Dean changes that for them. They also bring in, Hassan Reddick to help pressure from the second level. Philly was the perfect spot for Dean, which is why it made sense for them to grab him. And I think he's going to have a very solid career for the Eagles.
He is Emory Hunt at Football Gameplan, as you can see right on the screen. Follow him on Twitter. You can see his YouTube page, youtube.com/Football Gameplan. See him at CBS Sports headquarters, Sports Line. Emory, I'll leave it here with you. My last question. You've been at a lot of practices over the years at all different kind of levels. You were just at the XFL showcase I saw. Here in Philadelphia, it was interesting, the off-season work. They had 13 under the CBA, 13 opportunities to have on-field work. They scaled it back to 6. Meanwhile, in the division, Mike McCarthy and Ron Rivera are pushing the envelope and getting fined $100,000, going a little bit too far. What do you think of the shift in the NFL, and how important is spring work to the point where the Eagles are saying, you know what, we're going to concentrate on the classroom and try to keep everybody as healthy as possible? Where are you sort of on that line of where things are going?
I'm kind of in the middle. I can see both sides of the issue because back in the day when practices were a little bit more physical and, you really pushed the envelope, I thought you had better play right out of the gate. Now you don't have better play right out of the gate. The first game of the season is essentially the 5th preseason game, and guys are still trying to figure it out deep into week 3. And so I feel like that's a big reason why I think we're seeing more injuries now than we did when practices were physical. Maybe because guys are not getting used to the physical contact of football. You got to play football to be ready for football. So I can see both sides. You want to keep guys healthy because now you have an additional game. So you want to play the long game and make sure guys are out there for the full 17 slate of games you have this, now in this era. But also on the other side, it's like, man, how much do we have to ramp up to get guys physically ready to play the game? I know they're going to be mentally ready. This is their job. Physically, we know they're in shape, but football shape, I think, needs to really take precedent here. And we'll see if this changes moving forward. But I kind of am right in the middle to answer your question.
All right. Last one for me. And I apologize in advance for putting you on the spot because we've had a lot of debate about the newest Philadelphia Eagle, the guy that they signed most recently, and that would be safety Jaquiski Tartt that they picked up from the 49ers. We've had some people here on our stream, my shows on WIP, that have ranged from this guy's a Pro Bowl safety to what the hell are the Eagles thinking about signing Jaquiski Tartt and everything in between. The depths and the lengths that people have gone to describe him surprised the heck out of me. I think he's a solid signing. That's it. No better, no worse, but some think it's phenomenal and some think it's idiotic. So I'm going to ask you to give me your scouting report on Jaquiski Tartt, putting him into the Eagles defense, Jonathan Gannon defense. At the end of the year, we're going to look at him as average, above average, below average. Why the hell is this guy getting a check? Can't believe we got a Pro Bowl safety in June. Give us your rating, ranking, scouting report on the newest Eagle, Jaquiski Tartt.
So he upgrades the safety position, point blank. So it gives you a solid safety. Just like I talked about the second level for Philly, safety was another place where you thought, man, you need a safety. And so Tartt is someone that can come in and give you that solid play at that level. He'll be around the football. He'll make some plays. Granted, he missed the play in the NFC Championship game because we wouldn't get all this Matt Stafford top 5 quarterback talk.
Yeah.
Tartt just catches the interception because Stafford didn't play well in that game. But you know how folks tend to view things from a end result level. Now Stafford is top 10 when we know that's false. So and I don't mean for Stafford to catch a stray, but that's just the reality of the situation. So with Tartt, upgrade safety play, improves that part. So now you feel comfortable in doing certain things defensively because you at least have someone that's capable of making plays, which is all you needed if you're Philadelphia.
Great stuff. We appreciate you coming on, Emory. We're going to look forward to having you on again in the future. Again, tell everybody if they want to catch some of your breakdowns, some of your opinions and the like, how best can they do that?
Footballgameplan.com, at FBallGamePlan on Twitter, YouTube.com/footballgameplan. And also they can still get a copy of the largest draft guide in draft guide history, over 1,000 individual scouting reports at footballgameplan.com/2022 draft guide. It's a great resource to have in the preseason. As we know, these rosters are transient. Get to know your players in depthly and players around the league. Help yourself become a better, more informed fan at footballgameplan.com/2022 draft guide.
Emory, great stuff. We appreciate you coming on with us today. We're going to tap into you plenty over the course of the year. Have a good summer. Before you know it, camps will be opening. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.